Welcome to Penalty Box Radio, presented by Goldstone Financial Group. Goldstone Financial Group is an experienced team of professionals who will help ensure you receive distinguished service with a plan tailored to your retirement goals. I'm your host, Ann Kimmel. I am, of course, usually joined by my co-host, Sean Smith, but tonight I am welcoming into the studio a special guest co-host. I am joined by Emma Lingen. Emma is the Nashville Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News, and she also is the host of the Wraparound podcast at the Hockey News as well. Emma, you know, it is always a delight when you jump in and join us here at Penalty Box Radio. Thank you for braving what is this temperature thing we have happening in Tennessee, but thank you for coming out in the cold and the dark.
Well, hey, it's a delight for me as well to be here. But I will say it's gotten into the 20s, I think. So we're getting a little heat wave here. So
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
hoping that it keeps trending up.
I used to be a hardy Swede. I lived in northwestern Pennsylvania where we ate snow days for lunch and we walked uphill in shorts both ways to school. And I have lived in the South long enough that I feel like I am getting sold a raw deal on nights like this.
See, I say this as someone who prefers the cold. I like the cold, but single digits, not for me.
Yeah, this is where we call it off. But look, friends, we braved the cold weather to come into the studio. So much to talk about this week on Penalty Box Radio. And Emma, you picked a great week to join us because we get to talk about wins. And you and I both know that discussion has been few and far between here. Of course, on Penalty Box Radio, we talk a lot about what we call PBR weeks. That kind of is a Wednesday to Wednesday. And we look at what happened. And again, this was a really good PBR week for the Nashville Predators. We're going to dive in and talk about some wins. We are going to talk about some hitches in the giddy up on the blue line. And we're going to look ahead at what we think maybe Barry Trotz needs to be doing with the rest of this season. But we always kick off our show with our puck drop topic. And Emma, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first. In this PBR week, the Nashville Predators, they won a dramatic shootout against Chicago. They played, I would say, arguably their best game of the season against the Minnesota Wild. There was some drama there, too. We may touch on that. And then they staged the biggest comeback in franchise history Tuesday night, and they strung together a 4-game win streak. So, Emma, is this team finally getting it together and turning a corner?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to give you a yes, but. Yes, because the issues that were plaguing this team during the first half, like the fact that they could not buy a goal despite all of the goal scoring that they added during the offseason, those no longer seem to be issues. The guys are scoring, you're getting all 4 lines now are contributing to the offense. It's really good to see. That was something that we all kind of knew would come with time. It took a little more time than I think a lot of us were expecting, but
we had to be extra patient.
Yes. But I think that the but comes in with, for this team, yes, it's been great. You've seen the mental fortitude that it takes to come back, and they had those 2 come from behind wins, one in the shootout against Chicago, and then the erasing a 4-goal deficit to come back and beat San Jose. Both good, but those are 2 teams that you shouldn't have ever been behind in the first place.
That's a fair point, yeah.
So that's part of it. There's also the fact that this 4-game win streak, which is the longest to date this season, all came at home. And this team has been struggling on the road. So I'm not saying they can't do it on the road, but I don't think I'll be totally convinced until I see it on the road.
Yeah, and that is such an interesting thing for the Predators because last season it was like, man, it was really hard to get the wins at Bridgestone. Mm-hmm. But they would go out of town and they could really put something together. And it's interesting that we're kind of seeing the reverse of that this season with this team. When I look at, is this team finally turning that corner? I agree with you. Been waiting. Just sitting over here like Forrest Gump on the park bench, waiting for the bus.
Anytime now.
But it's interesting to me because when you ask the question, is this team turning a corner? I think you can say based on gameplay, potentially yes. But I think the question also has to be, is it too late to matter if this team turns a corner? And unfortunately, that's a question that the Nashville Predators have to face. They dug themselves into a hole. Yes, they are playing better. Yes, that comeback win over San Jose was great, despite the fact that, that whole all starts with being down 4 goals to San Jose.
In the first period.
In the first period. Yeah, you know what they say in hockey, that 4-goal lead's the most dangerous lead in hockey.
Yeah.
But you're seeing some good things from this team. But again, the question remains, like, the timing. Is it too little too late for the Nashville Predators? And we're going to dive into what that may mean for the Predators. We're going to look also coming up on tonight's show about what do you do with the time that you have this season, what's Barry Trotz going to do. But let's focus in on this PBR week. Emma, when you look at this Chicago 3-2 shootout win, when you look at this Minnesota game Saturday night, 6-2 win, lots of drama around that game. But when it came straight down to hockey, it was Nashville all the way in that game. And then, of course, the San Jose 7-5 game. What did you learn about this team, or what were the big storylines for you that jumped out in those 3 games about the Nashville Predators?
Well, like you said, 3 very different games for this team. And I think that one thing I already kind of mentioned, the mental fortitude that we saw in both of those comebacks, those come from behind wins. That's something that I wouldn't have necessarily had the belief that this team could do maybe earlier in the year. You're starting to see that now. I think the Chicago and especially the San Jose game, we learned that you got to start on time.
Oh my goodness.
And
60 minutes, friends, 60 minutes.
Yeah, I think both times, especially in San Jose, I think that I don't know if the Preds thought the puck dropped at 8 or something instead of 7, but they did not show up until that second period. And again, I mean no disrespect when I say this, but I don't think they're coming back from a 4-goal deficit if the team on the other side of the ice isn't San Jose.
Yeah.
And that's just the fact of where San Jose is in their franchise rebuild right now, and that's fine. But, if you get down 4 goals to Winnipeg,
nope,
Dallas,
nope,
Colorado, pretty much anyone who's not San Jose,
bless.
I don't think that you're coming back from that. I mean, even when I think after the second period, they had started to crawl back, and instead of 5-1, it was 5-3. And it was like, oh, okay, well, at least that's a little bit more of, it's a little more palatable of a loss. But after the way they played in the first period, the Predators deserved to lose that. And so, it was that. And then it was like, oh my gosh, they actually won. But I think that, with those 2 games, we saw that. With the Minnesota game,
this was an interesting one.
It was very interesting. And I think with, obviously there's so much drama coming around it with all of the Zach Larue stuff. And look, I would like to be very clear and say that I do not for a second condone anything that Zach Larue did when they were in Minnesota. However, the fact that he did it and he got an entire team and an entire fan base so rattled and so riled up coming into this game that they forgot that they had to play a game.
Right.
It's honestly, I'm like, this is a 20-year-old kid and you're letting him get under your skin. And I think he handled everything. Again, I don't condone what he did. That he deserved to get punished for it, and he was punished for it. And hopefully he learns from this. But I think that he handled it with a lot of poise and a lot of maturity. And I think that, the rest of the team did as well. They came in completely dialed in. And what gives me a little bit of pause, and I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think that I worry a little bit. Did it take that? Did it take having this giant distraction or what would have been a distraction to force them to really focus in and actually start on time and get a good jump off and actually play a consistent full 60 minutes? Like, it's almost like they had to have something externally that was like forcing them to focus.
Right.
And they didn't have that with the other 2 games. And I don't know, either way, I mean, it's a results driven business and you got the results, and that's what matters. But to your point about, is it too late to care? It's hard to say. We're still at that weird spot. We're not at the All-Star break or this year the Four Nations break. I think that it's just there's still a lot of hockey to be played, but the Predators did dig themselves into a pretty deep hole early in the season that it's going to be hard to come out of now when it comes to playoffs.
Right.
They're not mathematically eliminated, so you're saying there's a chance, but
That's right. That's
they're
right.
also not in control of their own destiny anymore. They lost that privilege with, how poorly they started the season. So they got to do a lot of winning and some other teams have got to do a lot of losing.
Yes.
And you can't control that at this point.
It's pretty early in the season to realize how much of your playoff hopes rely on what other teams don't do. And that's just where Nashville is. I mean, we're talking January, and Nashville needs other teams to lose. And that's not to say that it can't happen, but I think especially in the Central Division, you've got teams that have such dramatic leads over the Nashville Predators and that just aren't teams that consistently lose. I think it's going to be a tough one. When I look at this week, we're talking about the Minnesota game and talking about, the storyline with Zach LaRue. And I think it's a lesson that narratives can be motivation, but they also can be a distraction. And I agree with you. I think maybe that external situation caused Nashville to kind of focus. Andrew Burnett talked about, yes, I've had a conversation with Zach LaRue. The leaders in the team have had conversations with Zach LaRue. The players have had conversations together. And something that they knew was going to be an issue was dealt with. And then they turned the page and played hockey. And I think that was really good because Nashville needed that kind of focus, especially against a team like Minnesota. That's, a very good team. They've kind of been hot and cold at times lately, but I do think that was very interesting. Now, between you and me, I will say I don't think that was the most dramatic thing that happened with Zachary LaRue this week. Coming up, we're going to tell you about a little tiff that Zachary LaRue and I had in the locker room this week. Yeah, Zach LaRue doesn't like Wicked, you all, and I recommended it to him. He had some words for me. We are also going to be talking about the defense. We've talked about the offense kicking in. We got to take a nice hard look at what's going on in the Predators blue line. We're going to do that in a minute. With this 4-game win streak, hopes are rising a little bit for the Nashville Predators fan base. We're going to look at what some of those numbers tell us about the near future for this team. If you are planning for your future, you need to check out Goldstone Financial Group. Planning for your future doesn't have to be complicated. At Goldstone Financial Group, they help you create a personalized financial plan to secure your retirement. Whether you're thinking about your 401k, IRA, or just want to invest smart, they've got you covered. Just like the Nashville Predators strategize for every game, Goldstone Financial strategizes for your financial success. Visit goldstonefinancialgroup.com today and start planning for tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, the Nashville Predators back on the road against the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, probably not going to make it out to San Jose, but you can still enjoy the Preds game in a great atmosphere. If you're looking for that great place to watch it, I'm going to send you to Beyond the Edge in East Nashville. But don't just take my word for it. Beyond the Edge has been voted the best sports bar for the second year in a row in the Scene Nashville Readers Poll. With more than 30 TVs and 25 beers on tap, you'll never miss any of the action. They've got great food, great drinks, and it's the perfect spot to watch the game. Visit them at 112 South 11th Street in East Nashville or online at beyondtheedge.net. Make Beyond the Edge your go-to for every big game. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio. If you're looking for your next night out, Stars and Strikes in Smyrna has something for everyone. Whether you are into bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, or their newly expanded arcade, the fun never stops. Plus, their full menu and bar make it the perfect spot for group events and birthday parties. Oh, hey friends, it's a great place to check out the Predators game while you're there. Check them out at starsandstrikes.com. Emma, there was, of course, a big tiff with Zachary Leroux and the Minnesota Wild. There was also a little tiff with Zachary Leroux and I. You witnessed what I would say was a verbal throwdown in the locker room this week. Clearly, I was in the right. It's really fun. One of the things that I love about our job is obviously we get to cover this team. We get to cover them in just a really interesting and exciting time. But we also get to see and get to know the different parts of these players. You know, they're more than just a one-dimensional hockey player. And in a conversation, Zach Leroux gave just a rousing vote of approval for Moana 2. I suggested Wicked. Zachary Leroux did not like Wicked, and we exchanged words. Emma saw it. She didn't have to step in between us, but
I thought I was going to have to. I was getting nervous. I thought y'all were going to need a ref or something to officiate this. I would disagree. I would say it was in fact a big tiff. When I tell you all, this man walked right into the locker room, walked right up to Anne, tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Wicked sucked."
That is a direct quote.
That
is a direct quote.
Directed at you,
yes.
Like you wrote it or something.
Right, like I was performing it, which friends I could.
Yes.
But yeah, he did not like the songs from Wicked, which and he quit about a minute 40 in, which makes me
an hour 40.
Hour 40. Yeah, he did give it a little longer than a minute 40. But I'm like, did you get to popular? And you certainly didn't hear Defying Gravity. But we have made our peace. I am going to watch Wonka. He is going to check out Come From Away. And maybe we will get a Leroux review.
Yes.
You know, coming back on this. Emma, just side note, in a fight between Zach Leroux and I, who you taking? I'm scrappy.
I know you are. That's why it's hard. I don't know. That's why I was so nervous about having to jump in. I was like, I can't get in the middle of this. I'm looking around at the other guys in the locker room like, who's
Hey, Luke Shen, where you at?
Yeah. So I don't know. Honestly, it's hard. Give the edge to either one of you, especially when it involves musical theater. Maybe
I can throw down.
Yeah.
I can throw down. Yeah. It's so interesting. The Venn diagram that involves people who love hockey and people who love musical theater. It's a very small center, but I think Zachary Leroux and I may be in there. That drama aside, there are some reasons to maybe be a little optimistic about hockey, or hocktimistic as we call it here. When you look at what we're seeing, Emma, you know, what are some reasons to hope that Nashville is on their way to, I'm not saying necessarily the postseason, but on their way to a better performance down the stretch?
Well, I think some of the things we talked about earlier, the fact that you're getting all, a whole team effort, all four lines kind of buying in there. I think if you're looking at the goaltending as well, obviously UC Saros had a pretty uncharacteristically rough start. Wasn't all on him, but at the end of the day, it's the goaltender's job to stop the pucks, and he wasn't stopping the pucks. And so Justus Annunen came in against San Jose, and that's, that is exactly what you want out of your backup. You want a guy who you can rely on to really just stabilize things back there when your starter's having an off night. And so I think the goaltending situation looks good. I think the forward situation, they're finally starting to find the back of the net, which is really good. You're getting guys like, Adam Wilsby recently came off IR.
Great to have him back.
Cole Smith just came off IR. Man, I missed that forechecking.
It
was like everyone out there who says Cole Smith does nothing for this team, we know that this is a hill that I will die on and have before. I'm like a cat. I have 9 lives, but I have come, I have almost, come to blows with people over this, because Cole Smith, if you think he does nothing for this team, man, was he noticeable in that game
Yes.
against San Jose. You missed that. And so I think you're starting to see everyone kind of has a role that they play. You're seeing certain guys like Tommy Novak and Zach LaRue and Fedor Svechkov kind of starting to wake up a little bit. And so all of this is, it's all trending in the right direction for this team. It definitely, the chemistry issues that I think we saw early in the season, where it's like, have you guys met before or what is it? Like, we're not seeing that at all now.
And some of those more nebulous things like chemistry take a little bit longer to fix than say, hey, you need to do this differently in a system. And so I think it is a big step forward for Nashville to see some chemistry on more than just that top line. The other thing that I think gives you some reason to hope, Nashville has the easiest strength of schedule for the remainder of the season. Now, let's be honest, Emma. Still don't look great. Nashville has a 5.3% chance to make the playoffs. They have a 5.4% chance to get that first pick in the draft. So you know what a portion of the fan base is saying. They're saying tank for the pick. Barry Trotz is holding 3 first-round picks in his pocket right now, and they're saying tank for a top 3 or 4 pick. What is your response to that?
No.
Okay.
I think for a variety of reasons. First of all, if that's your goal, if that's what you want to happen, then God go with you. But Barry Trotz and company are not going to allow that to happen.
Right.
Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, those guys aren't going to allow it to happen.
Can you imagine, like, whose job is it to pull them aside and go, hey, Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, Roman Josi, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to need you to not try.
I think Ryan O'Reilly would spontaneously combust.
He would 100% just vaporize.
Yeah. I mean, and again, there are other ways you can quote unquote tank, like you bench those guys and call up all your prospects and play them instead. But that's not where this team is. You don't go out and sign Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault and Brady Shea and sign UC Saros to a long-term extension. You don't do any of that if you're trying to tank for a draft pick. So it's not going to happen. Now, I think looking at where this team is now, again, you need more. You need help from other teams, right? You need some other teams to lose in addition to you winning. But I think that it's not until, we could be having a different conversation. The only time I would say, okay, quote unquote tank, is if there's 2 games left in the season and you have a shot at a top 3 pick. Sure, call up all your prospects, bench all the veterans, just go out there, just have bodies out there on the ice. That's fine. But it is January. We still have so much hockey left to play. And I'm not saying, hey, guys, it's okay. We can still make the playoffs. I mean, we can, but that's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with it is, even if this team plays 500 hockey for the rest of the year, they're still probably going to be picking in the top 10 just based on what everyone else is doing. And this is a year where you have 3 picks in the first round. And this is also a very deep draft class. There is not a clear number 1.
It is.
Last year's Celebrini, the year before was Connor Bedard. This year, there's actually a lot of talent in the top 10 or expected in the top 10. And so I think that this is a really, really good year for this. Now, one player who I think is, kind of assumed to be the first overall pick or at least top 3 is a defenseman.
Right.
If the Predators go out, if they get a top 3 pick and pick a defenseman, the optics are not good. But
no,
I just, I think that at this point, it's too early to say tank for a draft pick because their odds of getting a first, a top 3 pick right now aren't that great either. But I think if they, at least for what it is right now, they're going out there, they're playing, they're trying to win, they're having fun. And it's fun for the fans too, because you want to watch winning games. You don't want to watch losing hockey.
Right.
And we've already done that for 40 plus games. So it's time to let us have a little fun.
That's right. Was talking yesterday after the game with the San Jose Sharks with JD Young. He covers the Sharks for the Locked On Podcast Network, and had a great conversation with him about where the Sharks are. And he is saying, look, you have to know, if you're talking tank, you have to know what that is going to feel like. And, you and I have admitted secretly, like, look, here's what's real. I sneak watch the Sharks. I love the vibes. Love the vibes. But last season, JD Young said, let me tell you what that was. That was pain. I mean, they were losing games 10-1, and here's what I will say. I understand that the Nashville Predators fan base wants nothing to do with the mushy middle, and they shouldn't. I understand that, but I just don't think I agree with you. You can want it. You can think it's the right thing to do. I'm not sure that it is, but the bottom line is, with Barry Trotz at the helm, it is not happening. It is not happening. Barry Trotz will value culture over the opportunity for a top 3-4 pick every day of the week and twice on game days.
Yep.
And even if Nashville tanks, look, San Jose, much better odds to get the first overall pick, like 20 some percent. Chicago is right behind them. You also right now have Buffalo, Seattle. You've got Anaheim ahead of them. It is not like Nashville is guaranteed, a top 3 pick. And I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of good forward depth in this draft. I get the appeal on paper, but I can tell you that is not going to translate in the locker room. Coming up, we're going to have a little conversation about what does Barry Trotz do next. We're going to lean into the gospel according to Gandalf and wrestle with that question through the rest of this season as well. As Preds fans, of course, we know the importance of playing both offense and defense. At Goldstone Financial Group, they apply that same mindset to your retirement. They are not just about growing your assets, but also protecting them. With decades of experience, they can help you build a strategy that secures your financial future. Head to goldstonefinancialgroup.com to learn more and get your game plan in place. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio on 102.5. The Game. Stars and Strikes in Smyrna has everything you need for a fun-filled outing. Bowling, laser tag. Friends, they have axe throwing, and they have a huge new arcade. With a full menu and bar, it's also the perfect place to host birthday parties or group events. And if you are a Preds fan, you can catch the game while enjoying great food and drinks. Visit starsandstrikes.com and start planning your next adventure. Speaking of adventure, Emma, I want to just focus on what I lovingly recall the gospel according to Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. I'm just all over the place. Wicked, Lord of the Rings. And I love the quote in there where Gandalf says, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. And I feel like that's the conversation we need to have about the Nashville Predators. We can, talk over what has gone wrong in these first months of this season where expectations were so high. But I really think a big question that we have to talk about is what do you do next? What does the team do? And I think the team needs to focus on building resiliency. They need to continue to build chemistry. You want to get some more players going. Like I think of Luke Evangelista, when he gets back in the lineup from injury, I want to see him pick up and get going as well. But I think the real questions that fans have and that we are wrestling with is what should Barry Trotz do with the time that is left in this season? And when you look at what is on his plate, Emma, what do you think Barry Trotz needs to be focused on?
Well, I think that you need to, if you're Barry Trotz, if you're the GM of a team, you're not just looking at this season. You're looking at next
Correct.
season and the season after that and the season after that and so on and so forth. And I think that when you look at it that way, you have to look at what kind of depth you have in the organization.
Absolutely.
You need to look at what you have before you go out and add more things. And there might be some pieces that you thought would work out and they don't, and then you kind of go back to the drawing board, or you have guys that you thought would slot into certain roles, but maybe they work better in other roles. And so just knowing what you have, and that's not even just from a talent standpoint, it's more of a system fit standpoint, because if you're committed to Andrew Brunette as your coach and his system as the system going forward, then you need to, like, a lot of the guys who are in the Predators system now were there before Barry Trotz took over. So now he's got to look at, okay, what does he value? Does he value this coach, this system? Okay, then we're going to go get the players that we think are best suited for that. And so I think that you have to know what the organization needs. You also got to read the room. I kind of hinted at this earlier.
You did, yes.
Read the room. You've got 3 first-round picks. For the love of all that is holy, please draft a forward or 2 or 3, because
Absolutely.
this team lacks some serious depth at forward, particularly down the middle. And listen, I don't mean any disrespect to guys like Joachim Kemmel or guys who are already up in the organization or have been up in the organization, like Zach LaRue, Ozzy Weisblatt, et cetera, all good pieces. But, they're at this point right now, they're not going to be like difference makers in the way that, a high level first round pick would be. And so I think that, again, Barry's got to read the room. He's got to also take an inventory of what he has before he goes out, whether it be at the draft or at the deadline.
Yeah. And I think it's safe to say, and I know this was a very hot topic of conversation earlier, but I really feel like at this point in the season, regardless of what happens with the team and their record, I believe that Barry Trotz is in on Andrew Brunette. And I agree with you. You have to find the pieces that are going to fit with him. I love what you say about seeing what's in the pipeline, compared to grocery shopping. It's really ridiculous to go grocery shopping when you haven't checked to see what's in the fridge and in the cabinet. You're going to get duplicates, or you're going to get something that you think is going to put together and make a meal, and you're going to be missing something. And I think that's going to be so important. The other thing that Barry Trotz has to wrestle with and navigate is what to do at the trade deadline. And look, here's what I think that we can say. with the record that the Predators have. I don't see Barry Trotz going out and buying because, like, we're so close to making a run. Like, we're not going to be doing any short-term rentals here. But Emma, if you look at this Nashville Predators roster as it is right now, who is one player that you can see maybe Barry Trotz moving at the deadline and why?
I would have to go just again, your options are kind of limited, right?
Right.
With guys and their contract situations. For that reason, I think I would maybe lean towards, and it pains me to say it, but I would maybe lean towards Gus Nyquist only because it's less about him not being valuable to Nashville, and it's
Mhm.
more about him being extremely valuable as a short-term rental for a contender because he's experienced. He provides really good forward depth for, if he's maybe not relied upon to be in the top 6 either. Like, I think that he could really provide good scoring depth on a deep offensive team. He's got playoff experience. He's really skilled, and he's on an expiring contract. And at age 34, 35, I doubt the Predators were probably going to bring him back next year anyway, or
Mhm.
even if they did, probably not for long. So he's a guy that would make a perfect short-term rental for another team, and he doesn't have trade protection in his contract. So that's probably who I would lean towards.
Yeah. Here is one player that if I were an NHL team looking to make a run, I would be interested in, but who I would not want Barry Trotz to trade. And I can see where people will disagree with me on this. But for me, Colton Sissons, I worry. I worry about Colton
I
Sissons
feel like
leaving.
we worry about Colton Sissons every year.
We really do. And it's funny because I think in Nashville, he is a little bit under the radar. Not that people, of course, don't know him, but he is not the name in Nashville. But if you talk to other players in the NHL, they know who Colton Sissons is. And Colton Sissons is so valuable to the Nashville Predators. I got a chance to ask Andrew Brunette about Colton Sissons, of course, scored a goal over this PBR week. It's been tough offensively for him, but there is so much upside to Colton Sissons. And I just want to play a quick clip from Andrew Brunette talking about what Colton Sissons brings to this team. Yeah, I love so much about Colton Sissons' game, and I think it's really honest of Andrew Brunette to say, look, we can move him up and down the lineup, but it may cost his game in some area or another. But if I am a team looking to make a deep playoff run, a guy who can jump in late in the season when you are dealing with injuries in who knows what place in your lineup, Colton Sissons is magic. But don't touch him, y'all.
Yeah.
Don't touch him.
Yeah, I feel too there's, the fact that he's on such an affordable
He's
contract
the
right now.
deal.
I think that's why we all every year his name comes up as someone who's like, "Oh, and I'm on the same wavelength as you. Definitely see his value. But I wouldn't want the Predators to move on from him. And I know that Barry Trotz really likes him. I know
Mhm.
that Andrew Brunette really likes him.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's necessarily. I mean, by no means do I think that he's a guy that Barry's out there shopping,
Shopping. Yeah.
but if you got to take the call, you got to take the phone call, listen to what the offers are, and then just see from there. But yeah, I feel like that's definitely a name that we hear around this time of year every
Yeah,
year. It
makes me
seems like,
nervous
yeah.
every year. Real quick, want to pivot and talk about the defense. A lot has gone on with the Nashville Predators on the defense. I think we've seen early kind of that Yossi Shea idea has gone about, as well as that Ekholm McDonough thing went earlier. We've got Jeremy Lauzon out with injury. Willsby just came back from injury. Spencer Stastny just kind of got up here in Nashville. Carrier gone. You've got Blankenberg up here, who has been really fun to watch. Mark Del Gaizo started the year here back in Milwaukee. When you look at the defense right now, real quick, Emma, what's your biggest concern on the blue line?
The whole thing? I don't know.
It's so hard to nail that down.
I think that the defense just doesn't, this might sound a little nebulous and lofty, but the defense just doesn't really have an identity right now.
I get that.
You go out in the offseason, you add all these pieces on the offense, and you're like, all right, well, we know where the goals are going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the defense, it's like, well, and it's just, you lose Dante Fabro, you lose Alexandre Carrier. And I'm not saying either of those are necessarily bad, like franchise altering losses there. But I think that you then kind of plug and play, and you there isn't an easy solution on defense because you have so many left shot defensemen, not enough right shot defensemen. So that lands you with Justin Barron, bless his heart, Justin Barron, playing on the top pairing with Roman Josi. They're both rovers, so they're both all over the place. The difference is one of them is really good at it, and the other one not so much. And I will just
we'll just let that sit.
Yeah,
I'll figure out which is which.
Yeah, I'll let y'all draw your own conclusions there. But I think that it still seems like the defense is unfinished in a way.
I like that word.
And it just, I don't know exactly. I wish I could put my finger on it and say like, oh, you just need this one thing or this one thing. But it seems like it's still a work in progress.
Yeah. I would agree with that as well. And I think that's something that Barry Trotz is going to have to spend some time, again, going through and looking at what do we have, next season coming up, 2 seasons from now. Things may look very different on the blue line, but right now in the short term, what do they have? Coming up next on Penalty Box Radio, we have the PBR Awards. First, though, we do want to give a shout out to Goldstone Financial Group. Just like the Nashville Predators are committed to winning on the ice, Goldstone Financial Group is committed to helping you win with your retirement planning. From tax strategies to investment advice, they make sure you're prepared for whatever comes next. Don't leave your financial future up to chance. Trust the experts at Goldstone Financial Group. Check them out at goldstonefinancialgroup.com and set yourself up for success. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio live on 102.5 The Game. Beyond the Edge Sports Bar in East Nashville has just been voted best sports bar in the See Nashville Readers Poll for the second year in a row. So if you are looking for the best spot to catch every Preds game, head over to Beyond the Edge. With over 30 TVs and 25 beers on tap, you will never miss a moment. It's the perfect place to relax with friends, grab some great food, and watch your favorite teams. Visit them at 112 South 11th Street in East Nashville, or check them out online at beyondtheedge.net, where every seat is the best seat in the house. Emma, we are going to have a viewing party here before the end of the season at Beyond the Edge. You need to come and try one of those 25 bars on tap and talk hockey and watch hockey. And
I'll try all 25. Let's go.
It's going to get wild up in there. If you thought Zach LaRue and I were wild in the locker room, Emma on all 25 beers on tap is a whole nother ball game. Looking ahead, Emma, of course, tomorrow night, the Nashville Predators, they are facing the San Jose Sharks. What do you want to see from the Predators tomorrow night? And then Saturday night, Anaheim also. Real quick, what do we need to see from the Predators in this PBR week?
Well, I'd like to see them start a game on time.
How about
that? Would be nice.
And on time for our friends listening is going to be 9:30 p.m. Central Time. Please plan your caffeine intake or nap accordingly.
Maybe that'll be a good thing for the Predators since they tend to start late here. Maybe that'll be just right on schedule for them.
Right on time.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it sounds simple, but a full 60 minutes. Like, you can't be doing any more of this, starting late or starting strong and then taking your foot off the gas, because these teams will come back and they'll make it challenging. So just seeing a consistent effort from this team is still something that I want to see.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting too. We are likely to see Yaroslav Askarov in net. A little insider information. Askey did play Monday against the Boston Bruins, but he has been really sick. JD Young, again, covers the Sharks, chatted with him, and he was saying there's a bug going around the locker room, and Askarov caught that bug and has lost some weight, which, friends, I know he can bench press a goal, but he did not have a lot of extra weight to lose. So, but again, back healthy, likely we're going to see him in net. So it's going to be an interesting game, another game with some underlying storylines with Yaroslav Askarov there as well. And again, Predators then Saturday head on to Anaheim, 2 games on the road. Oh, for the love, win on the road. Pretend like it's Bridgestone.
Yeah, like act like you've played a game on the road before, maybe. I don't know. I mean, even again in these quote unquote winnable games against teams like San Jose and Anaheim, these are teams that you need to be on paper, you need to be beating these teams. And I think that talent wise, the disparity is massive, but I think that you need to, and that's not just to say that the other teams are bad, but that they're just in a different
spot,
different timeline, different organizational timeline. Agreed. And that's fine. But I think that, Nashville should not be playing to their competition. They need to play at one level all the time.
Yeah.
And we still haven't seen that. Like I said, we've seen the results. We've seen 4 straight wins, but some of these wins have been a little too exciting.
Yeah.
a little too interesting. So would like to see them, be firmly in control of a game, the way they were against Minnesota.
Yeah. It would be great to have them come back home on a 6-game win streak. But look, we'll see what happens. Of course, we'll report back next Wednesday on Penalty Box Radio. We always, of course, close our show out giving out our PBR awards. These are awards that we give out for that PBR week. I'm going to kick this off. I, of course, give out the Stars and Strikes Momentum Shift Award. And this award goes to the player who turned the tide of a game with a key play, a hit, a shift in energy, swinging momentum in the team's favor. And this is somebody I have wanted to give an award to all season long. And I know it's been a struggle, but I want to give this one to Tommy Novak. Man, It has been a tough season, but we are seeing some of his best hockey. I really like what we've seen from him. Barry Trotz talked to Jared Stillman Tuesday about maybe Tommy Novak's feeling some of that back pressure, knowing that there are other people that are like, hey, give me a shot. I think Novak is really stepping up. I got a chance to talk to him, and it was interesting. He was saying one of the things that he's really learned this season is that you have to come in with a new mindset every day, like a fresh mindset. You got to put something behind you. And friends, I think across the board in the locker room, we could say that this is a team that is having to do a lot of mental work as well as a lot of work on the ice. So for me, Tommy Novak's play this week has been outstanding. A goal, 3 assists. So he is going to get my Stars and Strikes Momentum Shift Award. Emma, as guest co-host, you get to give out the Beyond the Edge Award, and that award goes to the player that just gave a little bit extra this PBR week. Who are you going to give that award to?
There's so many guys that I could give it to, but
which is so nice.
I know it's such a good problem to have. You know what? I'm going to go with Nick Blankenburg.
Love that pick.
I think that Nick Blankenburg has been such a pleasant surprise for this team this year. Didn't really know much about him coming in. Obviously has a history as a forward, has now plays as a defenseman, not the biggest guy, but he's been so valuable to this team, and he scored 3 goals. 2 of them have been game winners. Like
huge.
We need to trademark this like big Nick Blankenburg moment, because like he has provided those, and he's just been a really really noticeable part of this team at both ends of the ice. And I think that he contributed, like I said, had the game-winning goal against San Jose, but he's just been really really visible out there for all these games. So I'm gonna have to go with him.
Yeah, he has such an interesting story too. Emma is gonna have an article coming out at the Hockey News about Nick Blankenburg. But friends, this is a guy who was undrafted. If you want to talk about somebody who did it the hard way, Nick Blankenburg, but man, his hard work is really paying off, and I love to see that. Of course, we close out our show with the Goldstone Financial Group Solid Gold Player of the Week. Emma, I am nominating Filip Forsberg. 3 goals, 7 points. He, of course, was named the second star of the week by the NHL. Friends, when he is going, everyone is going. Also, shout out, because did you see the NHL video of Filip Forsberg and Felix Forsberg, and Felix just giggling at his dad?
It was precious.
I mean, stop. The Forsberg baby is just all that in a bag of chips. So for me, Filip Forsberg, again, doing a great job. Who is your nominee this week, Emma?
I'm gonna have to fall in line here and go with Filip Forsberg. I mean, I don't see how you pick anyone else for that. He's just been on fire, and anyone who knows me and knows my work knows that I enjoy being right. And I would
no shame in that.
I would just like to say that I was right when I said after that 18 game goal drought that he had, I was like, and he finally scored against Winnipeg, and I said, listen, this is a guy who tends to score in bunches. What happened? He's now scored in 6 straight games. So
absolutely love to see it.
Yep.
Love to see it. Jake, I hate this because we have agreed and you don't get a vote, but here's the vote I am going to put to you. This is a pre-show conversation we had. Jake, tell everybody, what is the worst Jolly Rancher flavor?
It's got to be between green apple and watermelon.
Green apple and watermelon. What's the best?
The best is definitely blue raspberry, but grape and cherry are a close second.
Yes.
I think it's like 1A, 1A, 1B.
Okay. I feel that. And here's how I'm going to tie this into hockey. May the Nashville Predators not have a watermelon or green apple start on the road in their next 2 games. That is just not something that we want to see.
And I'm not throwing like shade at either of those. Like if you like those, if those are your favorite, it's fine.
Jake will have extra.
He's just saying that because I'm here and he knows I like the green apple.
Emma's going home with a pocket full of green apple.
Yes.
Yes. Before we sign off, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find your work?
Yes, you can find my work at my social media handles at Emma_Lingen. You can find my work as well at the Hockey News and at Lower Broad Hockey and the Locked On Predators podcast.
That's right. Thank you so much again, Emma, for coming out, braving the What Is Going On Tennessee elements here tonight. Thank you for almost stepping in and separating Zach LaRue and I. Thank you for talking Nashville Predators hockey with us here.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yep. That is going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to Penalty Box Radio live on 102.5 The Game, presented by Goldstone Financial Group. If you want smart investing with a company with a proven track record of fiduciary responsibility, look no further than Goldstone Financial Group. Also, thanks to Stars and Strikes of Smyrna and Beyond the Edge in East Nashville. Friends, we will see you right here next week.